everyone, and welcome to episode 399 of the MTGGoldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, kicking things off with the owner of MTGGoldfish, Richard. How are you this fine Monday, Richard?
I'm doing well, Seth. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. I got to go to this super cool charity event that was an hour away from me this weekend. Got to play some Commander with people, meet a bunch of people. It was Commander sealed, which I didn't even know was a thing, but it was actually super fun. You got 17 packs and then build a Commander deck out of them. So that was a super fun blast. So I had a really sweet weekend. But we got another co-host today in Krim. Good morning, Krim. How are you today?
Morning. In pretty much my hometown, I guess, and then getting ready to head back after the podcast for a fun drive. So,
ooh, how long of a drive do you have?
It took about 6 hours or so.
Oh, geez, yeah, that is a fun drive. That is a fun drive. Whew,
a lot of music on these drives, so that works.
It's the most boring drive ever.
Oh,
is it actually?
It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
It's not a big freeway. It's like a highway, but not what you think of when you think of a highway.
Is it the super cool ones that they show in all the commercials where you're driving by the ocean and there's all these cliffs and it's just it's not
that's the 8-hour version.
Yeah, we don't do that one. That one's just way too long.
That one's just for the commercials. No one actually drives it. Anyway, that's a crew for today, and we got some interesting topics. We got the full Warhammer 40k Commander decks, so we want to talk about those, and also a few of the cards from the Commander decks, and then we got a bunch of smaller topics. We got a BNR announcement for Pauper today. We have some tournament news. We got a big arena tournament this weekend, the Arena Championship, the first one. Some Magic happening in paper over in Europe, but maybe not going all that well. So we're going to be bouncing around after talking about the Warhammer Commander deck. So that's the plan for today. Before we get into it, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit, the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. And if you're tired of all the hassles that goes into buy listing your cards, well, Card Conduit lets you skip all the typing, all the time it takes, all the work that goes into it. With their curated service, you can send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more and pay just a 5% service fee. And if you want to put in a bit of effort on your end, you can use their sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance and pay just a 2% fee. And no matter which option you choose, you're going to get a detailed report with the results in a fast payment once your order is processed. And oh yeah, you can even get another 10% off if you head over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. Card Conduit, they're the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thank you so much to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's talk some Magic. Let's start with these Warhammer Commander decks, and we'll talk about individual cards in a minute. But I gotta say, and correct me if I'm wrong here, these decks blew me away. I didn't really know what to expect out of this big run of Commander decks, but I feel like these decks are super interesting, pretty powerful, and maybe just the best Commander Precons Wizards has made maybe ever, at least in a really long time. Am I overrating these by thinking these are just top tier, S tier, best of the best Commander Precons?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. It kind of hurts how good these are. So yeah, these are amazing, and it kind of raises the bar, I think, for what Commander Precons should be, although the pricing on it is a bit steeper, right? Because I feel like I'm always gonna want them to make fresh cards now, a whole with new art and everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest upside. I tweeted about this the other day. People are like, oh, what makes these better? The cards don't look that much more powerful. And that might be true. There's some very good cards, but it's not oh my God, this is full of Dockside Extortionists or something. But what really sets these apart is all the cards have new art, including all the reprints have new art, and there's just a ton of new cards. I think every deck has 40 new cards or something, so a huge percentage of these Commander Precons are brand new, never seen before cards, which is so different than a normal Precon, which these days gets 10 new cards, and most of the art has been reused. You rarely get new art on reprints, so I feel like you can tell Wizards put a lot of effort into these decks. What do you think about these decks, Richard?
Yeah, I really like the new art, right? Why not just buy singles? Why not buy the 3 singles you need? Because all of the cards have new art, so even if you have the cards already, you can get the new Warhammer art, right? So someone's pet project is paying off. They really wanted Warhammer to succeed, and I think they pulled out all the stops, because they could have really easily just put reprints of the old arts for all the reprints. So yeah, I mean, and the collector versions are pretty expensive. People are speculating on those as well. So I think this will sell very well, and I think this will be a big success, and that'll set up future Universes Beyond Commander decks.
So the decks themselves seem to be selling for what, like $55? Maybe not the collector editions, which are very expensive, over $100 a piece, which isn't that much more than what normal Commander decks are anymore, right? It's like a bit more expensive, but it's not like they're hugely more expensive. My question is, if they can do this for Warhammer, why can't they do this for the normal Commander decks? Is it just a case where like they make so many Commander decks now, they just don't have the time to put much effort into them, and they're just kind of like, throw them together, give the intern this project for a day and like bash out the Commander decks for Dominaria United or whatever? It made me feel a little jealous, like, because this shows that they can do this. They can have Commander decks with all new art and with like sweet reprints and a ton of new cards. Like, it is possible. This is a thing that can exist. So is it fair to expect the Magic themed precons in the future to look more like this, or do we just got to write this off as Wizards went all out and put a lot of effort into this because it's a Universes Beyond product, and we can't expect our normal precons to be like this?
Yeah, I mean, like, what I would like versus what I believe will happen are going to be two different things here. I think that legitimately it'll just go back to being normal. Because it does take a whole lot of time to get commissioned art, all this other stuff. And it was, I guess, in a weird way, a little bit easier to put everything under a Warhammer lens so that they could theme all the art perfectly together. Whereas, like, I don't know, like they would have to put some serious thought into like how to get everything to sync up art-wise. The new cards, I mean, we kind of already get a decent amount of new cards, so I'm okay with like how many we get now. I more so just care about the artwork of the new cards because, I mean, I've always loved the artwork of Magic, so this is gonna. I don't think they could do this consistently for how many times they're putting out Commander decks a year. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I think it's Universes Beyond. Right? I imagine like you're a Warhammer player, you've never played Magic, you buy a deck, it has 100 cards of Warhammer art. Like, power level doesn't matter to you because you don't even understand the game. But you have 100 cards, right, with like cool Warhammer art, so you can have fun with it, right? So I feel this is Universes Beyond, and I think if they don't do this for every Universes Beyond going forward, it's going to be a little sus, right? Like, why did Warhammer get the special treatment, right? So I expect every Universes Beyond going forward to have like 100 cards with all art on theme, and it's the way it should be, right? If you're playing a Warhammer deck, I don't want like Teferi showing up or something in there, right? Like, show me my Warhammer stuff, right? So it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense. Personally, I would rather have them make like half the amount of Commander decks, but make them all this quality rather than make a ton of them and have them just not quite look as good as these Warhammer decks. I don't know. I feel like maybe we're at a point where we're going for quantity over quality when it comes to Commander precons, and I would rather, and I know they probably won't go for this because the current system is making huge piles of money, but I would rather have slightly less decks and pay slightly more for them and have them be of this Warhammer quality with the art and whatnot, rather than a ton of decks, but have them, mostly just be the same old art and whatever. The other thing I wanted to bring up about these decks, what do you think we do about reprints? That's been a conversation that's been happening. Mark Rosewater mentioned on his blog that they don't have plans to reprint these cards. And then someone asked him about how they actually would reprint the cards. And he kind of said, like, if we did get to that point, the cards that have unique creature types, like Asteries or whatever, they would get kind of the Godzilla treatment, where they get a brand new creature type that is not an existing Magic creature type, but it would also not be Asteries. It would be a new one that they created. And then the creature types would actually be the same under the rules, which is a little confusing. Is there any risk that we're like creating a new reserve list with Universes Beyond? Like, how hard do you think it is for these cards to actually be reprinted in the future, assuming that some of them are pretty powerful and end up being popular and, I don't know, end up getting pretty expensive? Like, is there any concern that these cards are going to be too difficult for Wizards to reprint?
I mean, yeah, it'll definitely be tough, right? Because when are you going to get any positions where you can print these cards and like the types and like having it referencing the typing in the text box, stuff like that? So outside of just reprinting a Warhammer deck, like that's the only way to go about it, or returning to the world of Warhammer, right? I mean, you can't just do like the Godzilla treatment on these cards because they have specific types in it. So that will be interesting. That'll be very interesting moving forward.
So they will do Godzilla treatment, but it will apply to like creature types as well. So instead of Astartes, thanks for all the people who told me that's not Astartes.
I like Astartes.
They'd make some new wizards type, and then those cards would be interchangeable. So it's like it's like Godzilla plus. Godzilla was only the name, but now the rules text will work with it. But I wouldn't worry about this. Money always finds a way, right? If there's a dockside extortionist in here, you can bet that Wizards will figure out how to reprint that and sell it in the next like Masters product or reprint set or whatever, right? So I wouldn't worry about it. Like I think if you're looking for like an entire Astartes themed deck, they're probably not going to make like 20 or 30 cards. But if there's like that one dockside or whatever, they will definitely reprint it just to cash in on that valuable card. So I think it'll be okay, but I don't know. Who knows, right? Like Wizards clearly doesn't have a concrete plan. They're kind of just like wishy-washy hand waving it. But you know, they can probably figure it out. Like the little secret layer, whatever, drop it. You pay $50, you'll be happy about it. Like it'll work out.
And maybe the Magic version of Astartes will be Astartes, and then we'll be right along.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Astartes. That's where.
Anyway, let's talk about some of the cards from these decks. There's actually some pretty interesting cards. So, Richard, why don't you guide us through some Warhammer spoilers?
All right. So you can find all these cards at mtgpreviews.com. We also have all the deck lists up on mtggoldfish.com. But let's start off with, I only got the primer for Astartes. I don't know all these other ones. Trazine, the Infinite, 4 black, legendary artifact creature, Necron, at rare, 4/6, Death Touch, Prismatic Gallery. As long as Trazine the Infinite is on the battlefield, it has all activated abilities of all artifacts in your graveyard.
I mean, they put it right in the name. Like, you're supposed to go infinite with this card. I think that's like the goal of this as your commander. And it is even in your command zone. It's so easy to build a deck. Like, Black's really good at filling the graveyard. So you just self-mill aggressively and then get like something that taps for a bunch of mana and then something that untaps, like Gilded Lotus and Staff of Domination is going to give you infinite mana. And then the Staff of Domination part can also draw through your entire deck, or like Pilla and Thran Dynamo. There's so many ways that this can like just incidentally go infinite. So I'm expecting this to be one of the more popular commanders. The only thing that kind of keeps it in check is without haste, or finding a way to give it haste, you do got to wait until you untap with this to do a lot of the shenanigans, because most of the shenanigans are going to involve tapping this and untapping it or whatever. So maybe that's like the safety valve that keeps it from being too devastating. But I think this is going to be a very popular commander and probably a pretty strong one if you build around it in a way that's, you know, fairly competitive.
I actually think it's bad because it's a 1-card combo sitting in your command zone. And either you win on the spot doing nothing, or you don't play the game at all as you're murdered or like rest in peace out of the game. So I think the play pattern is very boring, and like it's just sitting there, right? Like you can't let the player with Trazine like untap with the graveyard, right? Like you're just gonna like murder them ruthlessly. And it doesn't matter what's in the graveyard, because any moment like 2 artifacts can go in with a combo, right? So I feel this is the Golos problem, but like it has no way of like actually protecting itself or doing anything useful. Like it kind of just combos or doesn't combo. So it's just like paints a big target on your back. Like you don't want your combo piece sitting out in the open for everyone to see. They know exactly when you're going to combo off, right? I guess you could like Dark Ritual Jewel Lotus win on the spot, right? Like you could power this thing out, but again, like you do that once or twice, and like how fun is your deck? Either you win or you do literally nothing. So I feel it's too binary for me.
Yeah.
What do you think, Krim?
I'm not exactly sure. Like much like what Richard mentioned, like this feels like one of those things where it's like when I see a Brea player, right? Like I'm probably gonna kill the Brea player first, right? I just know that it's gonna go off. Even if they aren't trying, it'll go off, or they do nothing. So it's exactly like what Richard mentioned. He nails it right on the head there.
I mean, I do think Arch Enemy is like a concern. At the same time, it just seems so easy to pull it off. But you're right, maybe it gets boring because you're either like doing the thing and winning the turn you play your commander, or you're getting murdered before your commander comes down, or getting your graveyard shut down. So maybe it actually won't play in a way that's super fun. But I do think it's pretty powerful as far as new legends go from this set, at least.
Can you do like a turn 1 win with this? Like some combination of like Dark Ritual, Jeweled Lotus, Soul Ring, and then like somehow just like pop off like just like with a single land.
Oh, I wonder if you can.
What's the most efficient way to mill yourself into something reasonable?
It's probably got to involve Buried Alive.
Yeah. And
if you can get a pile of artifact,
right?
If you can get a pile of artifact creatures that go infinite, so like an artifact creature that taps for a bunch of mana, an artifact creature that untaps, and an artifact creature that gives haste, I think that would potentially let you go infinite. I think all those things exist, but you're definitely going to need like a lot of fast mana. It's going to have to be the Dark Ritual, Soul Ring, Mana Crypt into your commander with enough mana to bury it alive. So that's asking a lot, but I bet it's like technically possible to turn 1 win.
Like, can't you just like, what's that card I'm trying to think of here too? You can like Triskelion and like, there's another card, right? I can't remember what the name of it. It's like the Triskelion combo.
Phyrexian Devourer,
yes.
I think is what you're thinking of.
Yes. Yeah, like so if you get those 2 in the yard, that's good enough to do it, right?
They are both artifacts. So yeah, that would work because Necrotic Ooze can win with that combo, right? So yeah, essentially any Necrotic Ooze combo, but if you have artifacts instead of creatures work. So yeah, I think that would do it. So that's 2 creatures. You don't even need haste. You still need a lot of mana. You need 6 mana for your commander and enough to somehow bury alive those 2 creatures in your graveyard. But you're right, Triskelion, Phyrexian Devourer, that just goes infinite and wins the game.
Yeah, like, and, you know, it's not hard to get creatures in the graveyard. So with all like cards mentioned, like Buried Alive and things like that.
You have Buried Alive, you have Entomb. What's that ritual for like creatures in your graveyard?
Oh, the one Tomer always plays. Song of the Damned or something?
Yeah, Song of the Damned. It's like you just need to like fill your graveyard. Like there's so many ways to combo with. That's why this is like, it's never safe to tap out against this. Like I don't know if you can actually erase this, right? So
with these powerful graveyard commanders, do you still feel bad about playing like a Rest in Peace or a Leyline of Void in your commander deck? Like, no. I know people get salty about that because it like, oh, it shuts down like some people's whole decks. But at some point, if we're going to get these like 1 card combo commanders in your command zone, at some point, isn't that the like right thing to do to play Graveyard Hate like that?
Are people upset?
EDH. But think about the alternative, Seth. You sit down at F&M. You're like, oh, I bought this new Trazy the Infinite, okay? And they're like, first player goes Swamp, plays that like 1 mana black Rest in Peace, okay? And then second player slaps out an actual Rest in Peace. And then you're like, what am I going to do? And then you play some stuff and the third person just plays a Collector Oof or something. And then you're like, okay. So I mean, like, and then you get no fun, right? But the alternative is you combo off and no one else gets fun. So I get that, right? But I think it's kind of like a lose-lose, right? Like, you don't want people doing nothing. So that's why I don't like these all-in commanders that are kind of just like they either win or they do literally nothing. And I think this is one of those commanders. Like, it's just you feel bad for shutting them down, but if you let them do anything, they win, right? So you can't allow them to do anything.
I like to call that the Phil problem.
It's the Tomer problem.
I feel bad because I gotta kill Phil, but maybe originally it's a Tomer problem. Yeah, before Phil was on commander.
It's like he's gonna storm him off if you let him do anything, but if you like stop him, then he literally does nothing because he has a bunch of storm cards that can't do anything, right? So like you feel bad no matter the outcome, right?
Yeah, no matter what, it's a lose-lose. It's a lose-lose. You end up feeling bad, and that's like the worst thing in a game of Commander because what you want is everyone to have fun. So when you get these situations where you come away from it feeling bad, maybe that's a sign of it being a bad design with those commanders like that. So I think you're winning me over, Richard. I still think this card's bonkers on power level, but whether or not this is actually like a healthy card that's going to lead to fun games of Commander, I think maybe you're right that it's actually not going to do that as often as I was hoping.
All right. Well, in case your combo pieces required non-artifacts, we have Biotransference. 2 black enchantment. Creatures you control are artifacts in addition to their other types. The same is true for creature spells you control and creatures you own that aren't on the battlefield. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you lose 1 life and create a 2/2 black Necron warrior artifact creature token.
Whew. I love this card. This card is just so cool. You get like a little bit of the Mycosynth Lattice feel, but it's only hitting you, so it's not going to actually like hate out anyone else. Turning all of your things into artifacts is just like a super unique ability. All of a sudden your Fabricate can grab creatures, and then that last mode actually seems pretty powerful. Every time you cast a creature or an artifact, because all your creatures are going to be artifacts, you get a free 2/2. That's not a bad deal on a 4-mana enchantment. So this is one of my favorite cards from the set. I also think there's probably like some way to go infinite with it. I don't know, or to combo with it. Maybe not go infinite. It works really well with the commander we were just talking about, actually, to turn all of your stuff in the graveyard, all your creatures in artifacts, allows for even more combos. So it makes a lot of sense in the context of its precon deck. So I love this card. I don't know exactly what to do with it, but I think this card's super cool.
I don't know much about the Warhammer lore, but like this seems like it's just really cool, like flavor wise, right? I mean, turning things into machine, which is what I assume what the Necron are trying to do over there. So it just also seems like a really like fun card if you're a Warhammer fan. I think it's pretty sweet, and I don't even know Warhammer.
You're one collector oof away from dying here, or
yeah, that's for
turning
sure.
everything into artifacts is very sus. You need to win immediately, otherwise it's a little scary. A little Vandal Blast action happening.
Vandal Blast.
Oh god, you're gonna get blown up by Vandal Blast so bad.
I mean, a free 2/2 for every creature you cast seems strong, though. Like, you can flood the board pretty quickly with this, especially if you got some cheap artifacts as well. If you think about, like, Poppet Stitchers and Talrans, we have a lot of cards that trigger like that based on casting instants or sorceries that make creatures, but this is letting you cast creatures to make creatures, so I feel like you're going to be able to really overwhelm people on the board, but there is risk. As you said, Vandal Blast or Shatterstorm or things like that. All of a sudden, you're making your whole board susceptible to artifact removal. I don't know, would you just play this in a creature heavy deck just to like make a bunch of tokens, or is that not going to be good enough?
No.
Why would you turn yourself on to like the most like hated type? You know what I mean? Like in like Commander, like people have some form of hate for it, right? So I think by doing this, you kind of open yourself up to more blowouts.
You also lose life, right? You lose life and you just make a 2/2. So it's I'm gonna do this for value. I'd be comboing off with Urza or something if I was trying to do this.
Yeah, you essentially need to win or have some kind of combo because, again, I just don't think you can open yourself up to all the blowouts that'll happen.
But if you have like a Soul Warden, it undoes the life loss. So there's lots of creatures that gain you life.
So you're telling me it's a Soul Sister card? Okay.
Soul, yes,
Right,
it's
oh
good.
my
Is
God,
this good in
Seth.
Soul Sisters? We got there.
All right. Next up, Exterminatus. 5 white and a black sorcery. Non-land permanents your opponents control lose indestructible until end of turn. Destroy all non-land permanents.
Wow, like really loses indestructible? Like that's hilarious. I think that's absolutely hilarious that they're now going out of their way to add that because they know there's so many ways to like, you know, there's phasing, there's all this other stuff. So indestructible.
It's missing one last thing, which is all phased out permanents phase in.
Were we saying this was going to be a thing eventually? Now I'm curious when that version of that card comes. We're so close. Also, this is so overcosted.
It's one less than undo inversion.
Is this card even worth playing? Like 7 mana is a lot. I get getting around indestructible. That's nice. Someone casts their whatever, like make all my things indestructible spell and you get around it. That's a nice upside. You get someone's Ulamog or something. There's a few indestructible threats, Blightsteel Colossus or whatever. But is that worth it to pay 7 mana for your Wrath? Is that enough upside when you could play a Damnation or a Deluge or whatever? Vanquish the Horde?
This is a clean sweep, so I do like that. I don't think this thing is like that bad. If its backside were a land though, like undo inversion, it'd be amazing. But because it's not,
what if it was an Orzhov land on the backside?
Oh my god, are you kidding me? Yeah, that would be amazing. I would snap play that.
So Farewell does kind of this thing but better, right?
Yeah.
6 mana exile. It doesn't hit planeswalkers, but Exterminatus does. So that's a difference. But like, it's not just the Ulamog you're killing, right? You Wrath and people are just like, okay, I make all my creatures indestructible, right? And then you just handed them the game, right? So this prevents that, and I think it's worth the extra mana. So, I mean, I'd play this over Damnation, but I would play, I don't know, Hour of Revelation before this, or Farewell before this, I guess, right? But I think it's better than straight Wrath.
So it's in the conversation for being playable then. Probably not like a true staple, but good enough to be worth considering. Although it is a bummer Teferi's Protection still beats it, and that's probably the most popular way to protect your board. Yeah,
but it stops the white free spell, right?
Yeah.
It does stop flawless maneuver and
only your
like
opponents too, right? So you can still flawless maneuver yourself and then cast this.
And it also stops another card coming in the Precons, which I think is actually a pretty legit one. The next card on our list, actually.
All right. And they shall know no fear. 1 and a white. Instant. Choose a creature type. Creatures you control the chosen type get +1/+0 and gain indestructible until end of turn.
This card's so good. Like, this card to me feels like a staple. If you consider what this card does, yes, Flawless Maneuver exists, but Flawless Maneuver is an outlier. You can cast it for free if you have your commander, which is pretty busted. Most of the effects that do this are 3 mana, so you're already getting a discount with this just being 2 mana. Plus, it's pumping your creatures, which a lot of the other versions don't necessarily do. I feel like if you're in white and you're a tribal deck, this is just like an auto include, right? Isn't this like the next best option to Flawless Maneuver for saving your board?
I don't know. I mean, wouldn't I rather play like Eerie Interlude, right? Afterwards, like things that would just like phase it out for a turn. Like it's great, and I mean it's kind of like different.
You have Teferi's Pro, right?
Yeah.
So Teferi's Pro is number 1.
That's
Flawless
goated.
Maneuver,
Yeah.
maybe. Do you need like a 3rd protection spell? And is it this one?
Well,
wait, what was your temple's under attack or whatever? The draw. Like, you have
the
options.
better Secret Rendezvous. Yeah.
But this is only 2 mana.
The Flawless Maneuver is 0 mana.
Right. I think it's behind Flawless Maneuver. And Teferi's
So it's the
Pro
3rd protection. Do you really run
busted.
like that many protection spells in your tribal decks?
Yeah, I run Eerie Interlude. I run Teferi's Protection, obviously. Flawless Maneuver. I run about like 6 ways to keep my stuff on board.
To protect your 1 opposition agent.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta go all
on
in.
left if you have 6 protection spells in your deck.
Like
Crimbill is as if he's playing against himself, and everyone has 10 wraths.
Yep. Look, that's how you meta everybody, all right? You play around your own decks. But like legitimately it's great, right? Like having like just numerous ways to keep your board around. So like it's great in my humans deck, so I've enjoyed my humans deck a lot for that exact reason. And this, I do feel like this is still a very good card, but it does feel slightly like the 2 mana is obviously great, but like it's not there yet. I don't know. There are things that I play in my humans deck that aren't necessarily human, like Luminous Broodmoth, so I want to be able to just make sure that I have ways to also protect that as well. So there's a lot of like big mass like protection spells that just make it so that this is like good, but it's definitely not like taking priority. Like this is more like my 6th or even 7th protection spell, sure.
Ooh. Wow, is it that far down the list? Jeez,
Okay.
I was ranking
I
like
would say it's 3rd,
maybe
3rd or 4th, but I don't even play that many. I play like 2 protection spells max, so we would not make it to this point on the list.
Right. Well, think about it. You have like I like Akroma's Will more, right? Like that works as well. Like so, yeah, it costs double the mana, but like it wins you.
Finishes the game.
Yeah, so that's the main thing. Like there's a lot there that like. The card is good, but like Eerie Interlude actually like phases it out, or like not phases out, but blinks it out. So you get ETBs again, and like of course it makes it so that maybe the Exterminatus, right? Indestructible is now irrelevant. Well, my stuff's just not here.
I think it probably depends on your specific deck. Like, are you trying to build around ETB triggers? Are you just trying to get in damage? The part I like about this is that it does pump cheaply too. Like, give all your stuff +1/+0 is a nice bonus for 2 mana if you're some sort of like more go wide style tribal deck where you're going, making a lot of tokens that are the same creature type. So I think there is homes for this, but maybe you're right that it doesn't go in every tribal deck. It probably really depends on the theme of your deck.
Yeah, which is the way I think the card should be, right? I think it's a good card. And you'll put it in many decks, but you don't just automatically jam it in like every tribal deck, right? You might want Eerie Interlude, or you might want Akroma's Will. Teferi's Pro you put in every deck, which is not good card design. But
yeah, that's the problem.
Okay. Next up, we have the Golden Throne. 4 mana, 4 generic mana, legendary artifact. If you would lose the game, instead exile the Golden Throne and your life total becomes 1. Tap, sacrifice a creature, add 3 mana in any combination of colors.
This card's pretty sweet. I like that. So we have like Lich's Mirror, which is kind of similar. If you lose the game, it saves you. The problem is it makes you shuffle all of your stuff in and start over with no permanence and whatever. That's not very good. Like, Lich's Mirror, yeah, it saves you, but you still really lose. There's just no way you can rebuild against people that have a full board when you have no permanence. This, I think, actually does save you, which is kind of nice. Like, sure, you're at 1 life, but still, that's going to hopefully buy you another turn to find a Wrath or find some removal or gain some life. So I think that that's actually a pretty appealing option. Plus, I mean, sacking a creature at 3 mana any combination of colors, that's some pretty good ramp, especially if you're in the kind of deck that wants to be sacking stuff. I've been playing a lot of like Rocket Drobics, playing Merkle lately, these commanders that actively want to be sacking your creatures. And I feel like in a deck like that, this is great. It's not going to draw the heat that like an Ashnod's Altar would because it's only once per turn, but still a free dark ritual for doing something you want to do anyway. I'll take that every turn.
I don't think it's bad. Yeah, like I think it's actually like pretty solid. But definitely for a specific deck. So yeah, I agree. In like the Merkle decks, like the aristocratic kind of style decks, right? The things where you just want to send stuff to the graveyard anyways, it's great. Obviously anything that's trying to, like, if you're playing like a repay in kind style or whatever the profane procession or whatever the 9 mana spell is from Commander Legends, anything that really cares about like lowering your health total to 1. This allows you to like, fast track yourself down to 1 and then immediately like it brings you back and then you can swap life totals or something. Like I think there's a lot that you could do with this. It's pretty fun. I like it as a card, so it's great.
Yeah, repay in kind combo maybe, but I think this card is bad. Like so like the Angel's Grace mode is actually good, but it's a surprise. When it's sitting there on the battlefield, like everyone knows, right? They'll just like hit you for lethal and then have like, 1 extra damage to ping you. And it's multiple players. So one player knocks you to 0, you come back at 1, and then the next person just pings you off as well. So the fact that it's just sitting there and everyone can see it, I think is a problem. If you could like flash this in or something, I don't know how you would accomplish this, but like somehow make it a surprise.
Chromatic Orrery. Like, no, but like this card is still like, it still adds mana though, right?
When
like,
you just play Phyrexian Altar and Ashnod's Altar and stuff like that, though, if you just wanted to sack stuff for mana.
I think it depends on how degenerate you want to be. One of my pet peeves in Commander is people running out their Ashnod's or Phyrexian Altar fairly and be like, oh, don't worry, I'm not comboing with this. You still gotta kill them because they might be comboing. They might not even think they're comboing, but they're accidentally comboing because those cards are so strong and easy to combo with. So I like that it's not as strong as those cards, but I don't think it's going to make you the arch enemy the way those cards do. So I think that's actually like kind of an upside, that it's a similar effect that you can play that probably isn't going to get you immediately killed.
Yeah, this doesn't seem that problematic on the table, right? Just for those reasons, like everyone's like, "Oh, I'll just blow it up whenever you're done, or whenever I'm about to kill you." But like,
it's good because it's bad.
It's so under the radar. It's like meta, You're just like, "Oh, well, okay, all right." And on top of that, it makes mana. So if this were just that first passive mode or whatever, or if you'd lose the game, I'd think this is unplayable.
There's got to be a combo, like a repay in kind combo, where you play one of those like lose the game cards, go to 1 and just swap immediately. There's got to be.
Ooh, yeah, that does sound sweet. What's the best way of actually doing that?
Like
Slaughter
take an extra
pact?
turn, lose the game.
Yeah, slaughter
Yeah,
pact.
That's like 2 mana. That's very
Don't pay for
efficient.
the pact. I mean, you still got to pay a 7 mana repay in kind, so there's still some mana cost associated with it. But that does sound like a hilarious way to win. Or near death experience. This might be the best
Yeah.
way to get the near death experience kill.
The very easy near death experience kill.
Oh, now I'm gonna have to build this deck.
All right. Last card we're going to talk about Scepter of Eternal Glory. 4 generic mana, legendary artifact. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Tap, add 3 mana of any one color. Activate only if you control 3 or more lands with the same name. Is this card good in monocolor decks?
I think it is like, well, I don't know, because it's not like monocolor decks nowadays only play like islands, right? Like that's not all they play. That I don't know. Like I wasn't actually able to really get a read on this when I looked at it. It looked just like it was like decent, but it's not like amazing or anything. Because yeah, we mix and match so many lands now, and I'm not talking like about like artworks. I'm talking like like types and names and all that stuff. Some people are trying to turn on like Field of the Dead and things like that. So like in the right like the specific kind of build, maybe like in a specific like kind of deck build, like how these precons are built, yeah, sure. But in real life, where I feel like everyone's mixing up every land, I don't know. It just seems
I'm leaning towards this card being not very good. Like if you think about comparisons, so let's say you're monocolored. If you're monocolored, couldn't you just play Thran Dynamo and always make 3 mana? Sure, it's generic mana, but if you're monocolored, that probably doesn't matter because your mana's your mana base, your lands are actually going to be producing your colored mana. And then for 1 more mana, Gilded Lotus is this, but you don't have to worry about the land restriction. I don't know. I don't think I'd play this card. I'm kind of leaning towards this being like just worse than Thran Dynamo. And I don't even play Thran Dynamo in most decks anymore. It's been many years since that's been like a staple mana rock for me.
Yeah. The colored mana match. So if you play it on 4, right? You can then play a 3-drop with colored mana. So like you can't do that with Thran Dynamo.
But
But
then
like
you gotta
Krim is
go
right.
basic,
Like
basic,
who
basic.
plays all these basics, right? Like you.
Yeah.
I feel you gain more power in your deck by running Field of the Dead in your mono blue deck or whatever, right? Like it's almost always correct between like Masuba, Thespian Stages, Urza Sagas, whatever, right?
MDFCs.
Like, MDFCs.
yeah.
There's no basics. And here's the thing, if you're running a budget deck, this might actually be good, but this card is so expensive, right? Like currently, it's not worth. So yeah, I think basics have been powercraft. And the people that have basics would be green, but like green doesn't want this, right?
Right.
I don't know if this is better than Hedron Archive, honestly. Does not draw me cards.
Oh no.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone draw off Hedron Archive. You just think you're gonna draw, but you'll be tapped out when the wrath comes down, and then you get nothing. So maybe just getting the 3 mana is better.
I'm
Go ahead,
surprised none of y'all are talking about another card.
Oh, what card are you hyped
Drop
about,
it.
Crib?
What is it?
Plague Drone. What is going on here? 3 and a black, a flying 3/3 demon. If an opponent would gain life, that player loses that much life instead. Are you kidding me? That card is sick. Like, there's 2 cards that I just feel like nobody's mentioned. It's that and Blight Grenade. Blight Grenade is also sick, which is just 4 and a black, destroy target creature. All creatures get -3/-3.
Okay, wait. Blight Grenade?
Yeah.
Blight Grenade seems... Really? Is that a card you would want in your
Unplayable.
deck?
What?
5 mana sorcery, blow up a creature?
And then everything gets -3/-3 afterwards? Why wouldn't I want to try that?
Why don't I just play Damnation? It's fun.
Yeah.
No, Richard. You would play it with Damnation. You would play it with Damnation,
I'm
right?
sure I could play enough Black Wraths that are better than Blight Grenade to fill out my 100-card deck crib.
Yeah, but like Blight Grenade is so cool flavor-wise. It's just like blow something up, right? And then its body essentially like spreads a bunch of, I don't know, blight, and then that's -3.
I wish it had like the keyword. Like if the creature had like Death Touch or something, it like just kills everything.
Oh, that would have been sick.
Yeah.
Or I mean, I would love this if it also gave permanent like 3 -1/-1 counters.
So a sticker.
Yeah.
A -3,
I would love
-3
that.
sticker,
Put some
is what you
stickers.
say.
Put 3
Okay.
stickers on each creature. Who wants to sit through? Who wants to sit through that? I do think Plague Drone is interesting. Would you just play it for value, Krim? Just being like, hey, someone might gain life. I could see building around it where you're like playing Happily Ever After and playing other effects that like force people to gain life and trying to punish them for it. I think that would actually be a pretty fun deck to build, like using this as a additional Tainted Remedy effect for some like janky combos. But would you just run this out being like, hey, maybe I run into Soul Sisters. This is very good against Soul Sisters.
Think of it like this. Look, from how long I've known you, Seth, I'm worried. Soul Sisters is everywhere. This should be in Modern. Like I gotta.
There's so many cards that are good in it. Yeah, I guess it makes sense to tech for it.
Yeah, you gotta be ready because the Soul Sisters meta is here.
Why is this a demon? Where's the demon?
Yo, the demon is when the opponent tries to gain life and they realize they can lose life. That's the demon right there. Okay, that is so sick. That card is like I don't know. Maybe it's just because everything has tacked on life gain, life link. Like that's a cool Shadow Spear, right? Like you can hit yourself for like 7 also, right? Like, or I guess it doesn't do that. Well, yeah, no, it does. It would replace that, so they just hit themselves for 7. I don't know.
I just want to flash this in against like a Aetherflux Reservoir player.
Oh, got
Oh
him. Got
my
him.
god.
Someone casts Beacon of Immortality, flash
Like-
it in.
What about aristocrats, right? They try to do like some kind of Zulaport cutthroat stuff, right? Like, but instead
Yeah.
now they drain themselves.
That you would think they would stop doing those shenanigans if
Yeah.
it was killing them.
Oh yeah. But that's what I mean, right? Like it puts a damper on that game plan. They can't just be like, well, I'm going off and I'm going to drain the table. It's like, okay, well, at least hit yourself on the way out.
All right, confirmed. Plague Drone, most versatile and most chase rare of Warhammer
Honestly,
40k.
Slept on card. Slept on card. That and the assassin, the blue-black one. Like there's actually like really good cards here that I feel like aren't getting enough hype. But you know what? It's fine. I'm gonna show you all. I'm gonna show you all. When Calidus Assassin comes down, like have you seen that card? It's 4 blue-black flash. Polymorphine. You may have Calidus Assassin enter the battlefield tapped as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it has whenever this creature enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 other target creature with the same name as it.
That's a sweet clone.
Yeah, right. Like that's a
Evil twin.
super sweet evil twin with flash.
Yeah.
I'm here for that.
Yeah.
And I don't even
Yeah,
have to like tap to do it, right? Like it just enters the battlefield, destroy up another target, which I actually think makes it better.
Oh, it's better than Evil Twin for sure. Yeah, I mean, if you're in the market for a clone and you're in Dimir, that's probably one of the go-to options. I mean, there are a lot of really sweet cards in the set, and
Plague Drone.
if you want to see them all, and well, a lot of really sweet cards and Plague Drone. Yeah,
Plague
that's
Drone is
exactly exactly how I was meaning it. Actually, you
Plague
can-
Drone is sick, dude.
If you want to see all the cards, you can find them over at mtgpreviews.com, and I'm sure there'll be more coming up on the Commander YouTube channel. We'll have some videos there talking about these cards as well, but we should probably hit up a couple other topics. There's 2 or 3 other ones I wanted to get to briefly. One is we got a BNR this morning. BNR update. We got 4 cards banned. My question to you is, do you even know what any of these cards are, or that they existed? The cards, and the format was Pauper. The cards banned: Ekarata Sneak, Stirring Bard, Underdark Explorer, Vicious Battle Rager. Any idea what those cards have in common that have led to them all being banned in Pauper today?
I didn't.
I know because I put them on the site.
Oh.
They all have initiative.
Yes. The initiative mechanic has more or less been banned from the Pauper format, which I think is a good thing. I haven't played much Pauper lately, but apparently the meta is all about like dark ritualing into your initiative threats and just trying to parlay that into a victory. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. I've seen some of the people I respect the most that play Pauper, some of the experts in the format, saying that the format's just not very fun. This was before this BNR announcement, so hopefully this is good news for all the Pauper players out there. Any thoughts on this?
Wait, is initiative the dungeon?
Yes, it is the new dungeon mechanic. Yeah.
And that's good enough for you to dark ritual. I don't even know what the new dungeon does. Does it draw a card somewhere in there? Why are you dark
There's
ritualing
the
into this
first
dungeon?
Yeah, there's the first one, like, gets a basic land. It's just all, like, Pauper's all about just grindy card advantage. There's not really any sweepers, so it's, like, Monarch was at its best, I think, in Pauper.
Yeah.
So this is just kind of like another Monarch where you just, like, try to get this repeatable, slow value because there's not these big swing, end the game type of plays. There's no, like, huge finishers where, oh, I got an Emrakul and the game's over or whatever. They banned all the storm cards. There was no big, like, oh, I stormed off and killed you. So it's really about just, like, grinding out repeatable advantage, and even though initiative is not like a ton of advantage, it's enough that that Pauper players are all about it. So
I know nothing about these cards until like this morning. Like I learned about them fresh this morning. I had to look them all up. And I already forgot what they did. So, like,
they're really bad. It's like a 4-mana 1/5 with initiative. And that's it. That's enough. That's enough to get yourself banned, right?
Pauper's wild. Pauper's wild. They're doing things out there. So, like, I have no idea what's going on because, like, I
hope this fixed the format because if we're losing to Vicious Battle Rager, that seems really sad. So, yeah. So I don't know. This happens to Pauper a lot, right? They just print some like random mechanic and it just like turns Pauper over, and then they go and ban it. So
I do have to say I have a huge appreciation for how they do Pauper bannings. Gavin's really like taken the helm and has like the Pauper committee that helps him with stuff. But a lot of times we get BNR announcements and it's kind of like a paragraph with like a little bit of data and like here's this card being banned. But with Pauper, there's like articles. Gavin has like a 15-minute video explaining like exactly why they ban these cards and where the meta's at. So I would love to see more of that with other formats because I think just the way they handle bannings in Pauper is far above how they handle them in any other format. And I think it's mostly like Gavin's doing. He just like does an amazing job with this. So I guess shout out to that. If you want to hear more about these bannings, check out Gavin's video that goes in depth on it. But other news, we have 2 pieces of tournament news. First, we had our some EU news. I don't know if you all saw this going across Twitter. They had a big qualifier over in Europe this weekend. This is the qualifiers to get to the actual Pro Tours. When they started up OP again, they split it up in regions. So like Europe would have their own tournament organizer. We have, I think, DreamHacks is doing it here in the US. So each region has their own TO. The Europe one apparently did not go very well. There's some pictures posted on Twitter where they charge people $100 to play in the event, and the tables that they have literally cannot fit 2 playmats. So the pictures are actually pretty funny. You see people's just like playmats really hanging off the table, like almost down in their laps. What do you guys think about what's going on with Tournament Magic? Like, they bring it back, and then we have stuff like, is there no quality control? Does Wizards not have, like, the ability to be like, hey, EU tournament organizer, you really, like, should have tables big enough to play our game on or something? Like, what's going on with this? What is up with paper Magic these days?
I would assume that was just also, like, common sense, right? Like, when it comes to, like, I mean, sorry, that might sound a little harsh, but, like, is that not just, like, what you would assume, right? Like, hey, I should be able to fit my playmat. You know what I mean? Like, at the very
I would assume that.
Yeah. Like, am I being unreasonable?
And therefore it was never codified. I think Wizards will have to add a new standard that tables must be at least of certain size because you can fit 2 rows of cards on your side. It looks like an actual like picnic bench or something. You know, like when the picnic table's full and you're trying to play some Magic, you're just sitting on the side bench. You're trying to jam some Magic. Like, that's what it looks like. I don't know how this is acceptable. I don't know why the TO thought this was acceptable.
You know what?
I think Wizards definitely does not see this acceptable, and I think they're gonna have some harsh words with this TO, and they're probably gonna codify this. That you actually need tables of certain size because this is actually quite ridiculous.
It's embarrassing.
I know
embarrassing.
Why. The last tournament they ran must have been another card game, the Weeby card game. Why Schwartz? Because I've seen the playmats for those games, and they're like the size of like my MacBook keyboard, just the keyboard, not the whole laptop. And I'm like, what is going on here? So you know what? If the TO out and just said, you know what, we ran a card game that had a much smaller playmat size, I would accept that. Okay, sure.
You know those tiny dual decks they made where all the cards are like a quarter size? Someone should have busted that out at this Legacy tournament or whatever.
Would have been absolutely perfect for that. So, well, hopefully they get that fixed. Qualifiers are expensive, and you got to have at least like a minimum standard of quality, which I think means your playmat fitting on the table, both of them for both players. But other tournament news: Arena Championship 1 coming up this weekend. This is officially the first big event of our new OP system. We got Pauper organized play now. We'll have a Pro Tour, and the winner, the first one. This is the first Arena Pro Tour, essentially, the Arena Championship. It's coming up this weekend. Curious if you guys are going to be watching this. Are you hyped about this? I used to be so hyped for Pro Tours. This one I was hyped about because I was like, wow, I want to see what the pros do with our new standard format. And then I realized apparently it's alchemy for some reason, which just blows my mind because we just had rotation. If there's one single month of the Magic year that is perfect for hosting a standard tournament, it's September after you have a new set release and rotation in standard. But instead it's alchemy, and alchemy is still like not really rotated. Like it rotates like standard, but apparently like all the Commander Legends cards are still there. There hasn't been the alchemy release for Dominaria United yet. So the format kind of it blows my mind. I don't know why they went with this choice, but what do you guys think about Arena Championship 1? Are you watching, and why is it alchemy?
So like, I'm probably not watching just because I haven't watched Pro Magic in a minute. But like, I will say though that like, it is kind of shocking that alchemy is the first thing, before even giving the regular set, like standard to like play out. Cause I always viewed alchemy as like a way to more so just like fix some things, within the meta. And I don't think we really know what the meta is yet. So I'm kind of surprised. I do like seeing their, like, I dare say it, I know, fake magic, but like, I'd like to see, like the digital cards pop off though. Cause I don't know. It's always interesting to see what they come up with when it comes to alchemy.
Yeah, it's so alchemy is definitely different from standard, right? Because all the rebalances, all the digital cards. So as a standard player, I don't have any interest in watching it. I was actually very hyped. I was like, oh, finally, I can watch like some Pro Magic and then see what everyone's answer to, mono black or black X mid range or whatever is a standard. And it turns out it's alchemy. And the thing is, like, Wizards was so dodgy about it. Like, they didn't even say it's like an alchemy tournament. You have to like dig real deep to figure out what the format is. But I don't know what they're doing, man. Like, I understand why they wanted the default format, right? But they must know that tournament Magic players do not like alchemy. So who's going to watch this, right? Like, tournament Magic players like watching standard. So I'm not sure why this event itself has to be alchemy, right? They can have alchemy events on Arena, and they can make the actual rewards alchemy stuff. That's fine, I think. But tournament Magic is full of standard players. So I'm not sure why. And I guess we'll find out, right? We'll see what the views are like on this tournament. And maybe we're just wrong. Maybe all the alchemy players will come and support it, and it'll be a big successful event. But I certainly wish it was standard. Like, I really wanted to see some standard pro play. But
me too. I
guess
I missed you.
It's so open. This is like the best standard ever.
Yeah, standard.
We can't see it.
Standard's fun. Do you remember how hyped it was when they do, like, it was usually SCG the weekend after the set release? We'd have a big standard tournament, and I would watch it every time, and it was so sweet, and I really miss that. So for me, I don't even really play alchemy. It's not my thing. I just question the timing of this. If this was like, I can see the value of alchemy when standard is solved and dead and stale and everyone's kind of like bored with the format and they just want something else. Do an alchemy pro tour. Like, it's not my thing, but it makes sense to me in that context. But doing it like right after rotation when standard is fresh and everyone's hyped about rotation and no one knows what's going on with the meta other than there's a lot of black decks, it's like just such a perfect time for a standard tournament. And I mentioned this on Twitter and someone said, well, I think they're saving standard for Worlds, but that's not until Vegas, the end of October. So it feels like they're falling into the same issues they had with the MPL, which is just scheduling things at times when in formats that people don't really want to watch, like scheduling standard right before rotation or right before a new set release when no one cares, and then scheduling alchemy right after a new set releases when everyone is interested in standard. So I was hoping that they had learned something from the MPL experience, where I think a huge part, or at least a meaningful part, of why it flopped was just they scheduled things at very awkward times, but apparently that didn't happen in this case. So Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll have it on in the background as I'm doing other stuff, but I'm definitely much less interested now that I know it's an alchemy tournament. So, well, anyway, I think those are all of our big topics today, which means it is time for some fish mail. Richard, take it away.
All right. If you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your question on air. Shout out to all the people who told me it's Astartes. Hatto 200. Should we be worried about leyline binding in Modern? We've seen decks like Creativity, Rhinos, Forcey, Omnath, etc. splash an off-color Triumph to play it since it's so free. I worry cards like it encourage too many decks to go 5C. Should Modern ban Triumphs?
Oh,
No.
No. I mean, I don't think it would even do anything. Like, if you want to go 5C, you can do it with shocks and fetches. Triumphs, I guess, are helpful, but I don't think it's really a deal breaker as far as going 5-color. I would say the decks that are most interested in this are the Cascade style decks. If anything, it's a testament to just how busted the Cascade mechanic is, really. And we've seen this be a problem in the past. We've seen Simian Spirit Guide banned because of the Velki cascading into Velki and getting a Tibalt synergies. So really, I see it as just like another reminder that Cascade is a really broken mechanic. But no, I don't think there's a problem with deck splashing for leyline binding.
I mean, is that really any worse than anything else that's going on in Modern? I don't view this enchantment as that problematic. So, if they want to add more colors, more tap lands into their deck, that's great. I do believe that is correct though. Like what you had mentioned, where it's like probably if you're worried about anything, it's cascading.
So would it change your mind if I told you I now play Domain Jund? where I put the Bat Triumph in my deck, and then I play the 2-mana Tarmogoyf Domain one that's like way better than Tarmogoyf because it's a 2-mana 5/5 that lets you either graveyard hate or cantrip your red 6 lands.
Oh right.
And then I play Draco, the 4/4 flyer that gives my Dauthi Voidwalkers Death Touch as well. And all it cost me was like 1 Triumph in the deck.
Are you even Jund anymore at that point?
It's basically Jund, but you replace Kalidas or whatever your 4 drop of choices with the dragon, and then you replace Tarmogoyf with the what's it called? The territorial Kavu. It's basically, it plays exactly like Jund, but you're way better, and then you're like way soft against Blood Moon now because like all your crap dies when they Blood Moon you. But it has a lot more game.
So you found a way to get bodied by Blood Moon even harder.
Yeah, but it's so much better now because you have like so much main deck graveyard hate, and then your red and 6 just draws you cards, right? Because you can just chuck those lands to Kavu, and then your Kavu has trample because of the dragon, so like you can actually like punch through instead of people just trumping your Goyfs all day.
You know how you can get around that? You just play 4 or 5 color control anyways. Omnath, good stuff. Yeah, you can do that too.
Just play Grixis Death Shadow. Just do anything else.
Yeah. But like legit, you're actually just not that far off from being able to play just like an Omnath 4 or 5 color good stuff deck.
All right. Next question. YVH27. The MTG Arena matchmaker is so blatantly rigged towards creating mirror matches. Don't you think this is a problem that should be addressed more by the community? It undermines the whole idea of a meta existing since everyone experiences their own meta.
Wait, why? Is there actually proof that the Arena matchmaker favors mirror matches for some reason?
So
I know in like
in 1v1, if you play
there's-
off meta, it matches you off meta, doesn't it?
But it still wouldn't be like a mirror match necessarily, right? Like off meta wouldn't mean the same deck. I think it would just be something else. My understanding is that like somebody has some like power ranking of the rares and mythics in your deck. And if you're playing a lot of the ones that show up in top tier decks, then you're going to probably play other top tier decks. But if you're not playing those cards, you're probably going to play other people who aren't playing the top tier cards. But still, like that wouldn't be a mirror match necessarily.
But, so if you're playing Black X in standard right now, you would just be matched against Black X in standard, right? I think that's what they're hinting at. And if you like try to build an anti-black meta deck that's off meta, then you don't get matched against the Black X decks anymore, and then you're just doing nothing. Like I think that's what they're kind of hinting at.
Is that real?
I mean, I can see that, although Although wouldn't that be like just a problem of black being so heavily played in standard rather than the matchmaker itself? Like, it's kind of a weird scenario where a huge percentage of the decks are black decks right now. So I wonder if that's like an arena issue or just a meta game issue.
Wait, hold on. Is this even real? Like, I know that you get paired against other people, like if you play in like casual 1v1, right? Like unranked. Yes, it'll sync up your power.
Oh, is it only unranked? I thought this was just best of one ranked. I'm unsure where this mode comes into play, but this mode does exist.
The mode exists in unranked. So if you're playing ranked, I mean, I've gotten the widest matchups, right? I've gotten like, yeah, I have had a mirror match, but that just happens, right? But like, and then
you're playing off meta, crew.
Oh, I'm playing off meta.
Yeah, that's why you have such a wide variety of the metagame, because you're in the off meta metagame.
I you know what? The Wild West, maybe that's true. But like at the same time, I don't think this is actually real, right? Like this feels like this is just speculation, right? Like I cannot imagine that actually being real, because I've gotten paired against a wide array of matches on my control decks. I've gotten that on even when I was playing like Grixis mid-range. So I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen that.
So, I mean, I think it's definitely a thing for unranked. I'm not 100% sure if how it applies to ranked or if it applies to ranked. Arena's tricky because there's so much variance between best of 3 and best of 1 and unranked and ranked. It's hard to know exactly what's going on. So maybe if this person who sent in the question is not playing ranked, maybe try to play ranked instead and see if that helps. Maybe it'll be different. Although, like, you just got to come to grips with the fact that black is like 50 to 75% of the meta. So if you're playing black decks a lot, it's not because Arena has some conspiracy to make you play black decks. It's because everyone is playing black decks because they're really good.
All right. And last question, 11 Vicious. What are your thoughts on Vegas not having any on-demand events? So there was a tweet asking if there'd be on-demand events, and Pastimes basically said, we don't have an answer for that. Which is a weird answer to give. I mean, the event is like a month and a bit away. Like, either yes, there are, or no, there are not. Maybe that means no, there are not, but they're trying to get some.
How do you mess up GP Vegas? Like, seriously, how do you mess up
like
the
importing tiny tables from EU?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the whole setup is very, very weird to me. Like, having everyone pre-register for events, have all the events essentially, or very high percentage of them be sold out. So now there's not events that you can join if you want to. Being kind of dodgy about if there's on-demand events, which I thought they initially said there'd be on-demand events, but maybe I was misunderstanding when they had the initial announcement. So all that just seems like a mess. It's just like such a counterintuitive way to run this event. So I'm disappointed by that. The good news is there's going to be thousands of Magic players all in the same place, hanging out in Vegas. My best experiences at Vegas are drafting with people in hotel lobbies and things like that. Like, that's what makes past GP Vegases for me. So I guess the good news is, even if the actual event is not running as smoothly as maybe I would like it to, or there's some weird choices going on with events or not having events, I think that people are still going to have a really good time, because there's going to be a lot of people to hang out and play Magic with, whether that's happening at the event or happening in other places.
I have a feeling the event hall is a lot smaller than what we need, because that would be the only reason, right? Like, they maybe initially thought not many people are coming to Vegas, so they booked not the main convention center. And then, you know, they need to have like the free play area, the command zone area, and then the on-demand event area. And like, on-demand events are basically free, right? You just need some floating judges. So why would they not have them? It has to be a space issue, right? Like, I don't understand why they wouldn't have it otherwise. So that's my guess. It has something to do with space at the event, and they're trying to figure it out, which is why they won't give an answer, because it's probably no, but we're trying to make it happen. And hopefully it'll be a pleasant surprise when it all happens like we expect it.
I mean,
we'll be
I think the bigger concern for me is really like, is there going to be free play areas outside of the command zone for people to just play casual games? Like, that's And maybe it's just because of how we play Magic, and I don't really do on-demand events anyway, but I do have a real worry that there's going to be a lot of people that are just not going to have a place to play. If you didn't get the expensive tickets that let you in the command zone, is there even going to be enough just open tables where you can play a fun game with some random people? That's my bigger concern, because the few things we've heard Wizards say about that is like limited number of free play tables or something, and just like those words make me a little worried that maybe that's not going to work out either. But worst case, like, find a hotel lobby, find a casino lobby, set up, play some Magic. There's got to be a poker table somewhere that you can, borrow to get in a Commander game or something. So
there might be a park bench that we can sit on.
I'm
like,
telling you,
Chase versus Vraska tiny decks.
we just go to like a Pizza Hut or something like that, or a Domino's, and just hang out there, and we can just like play Commander, because I'm the more I'm hearing about it, the more it just seems like there's not going to be enough space. Also, what we can and can't do is like a whole like thing on like which badge I have, and it's like it's just a lot of work.
This is all I paid $160 for this privilege here. Like, I shouldn't pay this and then have to do my own stuff, right? Like, they're supposed to set this all up. So yes, that is a workaround, but like, what am I paying for if I'm going there and doing everything myself, right? Like,
exactly.
Yeah, so hopefully they get it straightened out. It's all rumors and hearsay now. So hopefully they turn it around and get it all organized. All right, that's all of Fish Mail this week. Thank you to everyone who sent in their questions. If you have future questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we get to your questions on air.
And I believe this brings us to the end of episode 399 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So, Richard, Krim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we will be back next week to talk about whatever goes on in the world of Magic. So until then, have a great week, everyone. And this is Drew signing out.